Can talking politics be good for your health? Well, I have a hard time saying that without sort of laughing and giggling because I know when I ask that question, people are like, "Are you crazy, Dave? Talking politics can't be good for your health." My entire life, people have said, "Don't talk politics. It causes issues," and we all know what it does. We live in this very divisive world right now. Maybe politics isn't good for your health, but can we make it not bad for your health? I really believe that on almost any political topic or, problem, you want to call it that it can actually be fun. And I know you're thinking, all right, Dave, I got to hear, how are you going to make politics fun? And I'm not talking about the zingers when, you set somebody up and you go catch them with an aha question. Yeah, that can be fun for sure. But it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just being able to sit down and talk about a political problem and get those happy chemicals in our brains and feel that sense of accomplishment. You think about what you do in your job. Everybody who has a job has to solve problems. I don't care how mundane or boring your job is. There's a problem to solve. Problem solving can be really fun and addictive and really bring a sense of worth and happiness to you like many things can't. So what is politics? It's problems. Like it's this field that's ripe for the picking for problem solving. The challenge in politics, as we all very well know, is the political divide. Now, that's going to be a whole separate topic. I'm going to talk about that political divide and got some really cool ideas and thoughts around it and, fun, exciting things. But that's a different video for a different day. So if you're tired of that political divide, if you're tired of feeling like you can't even think about politics because it makes you upset, it depresses you, you have bad feelings about it, and you're like, why can't we just all get along, live in la happy land? Then you came to the right place. I can't guarantee that, that's all going to go away, but I can certainly minimize it and actually get you feel like we're not as bad off as it might seem. What are the things we can do to make politics healthy or not unhealthy? So the first thing that I always do is immediately take away the labels. If we just take away those labels and say, well, let's just eliminate those. And that means conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, whatever the label is, left, right, it does, whatever it is, we remove those. No name calling. We've all seen it. You get two people, especially like at a protest or something like that, or sometimes in your kitchen over dinner, people start talking politics, and it very quickly becomes personal. And people say stuff like, well, you conservatives or you liberals, and then pretty soon it goes to you morons or you idiots or that's a stupid idea, all that sort of stuff, because we have passion there. Like I said, whole another video on that topic, but I understand why that happens. So, but it's important to say if we're actually going to be solving a problem, then you need to remove those. Everybody who has a job does this all the time. We just get a problem and we solve it. We don't first decide which team we're on. I mean, unless you're actually on a sports team or something. But generally speaking, we just solve problems and we feel that satisfaction from it. So that's why we're going to remove those and just focus on the problems, which is point number 2. What is the problem? What we hear from politicians, or what we hear from news, or maybe what you hear from your friend or your relative, is you hear a problem, but what is the problem? And you could say, well, the problem is I'm cold. And you say, well, we can't have you being cold. That's a problem. You cannot be cold. And so we try and figure all these ways to make me not cold. I mean, I live in Arizona. I get cold really easy. And so you say, well, you got to put a coat on. You got to do put gloves on, you got to turn the heat up, all these sort of things, and you won't be cold. But did we get to the root of the problem? Maybe it's cold outside and the window's open, you need to kind of go back and find out what the root of the problem is. So that's what we will do, is go back and say, what is the actual problem? Not necessarily the problem that's just affecting me and causing me to be cold, but what is causing the cold? Maybe that was a terrible analogy, but I hope you get the ideas. We're going to try and go back to the problem. We're going to take the high-level political issue, which politicians have to do, by the way. News media kind of have to do it as well. We'll talk about that in another separate video. But we're just going to say, we're going to just say, what is the problem, and get to that. So first of all, we're going to take away labels. We're going to say, what is the problem? And we'll find that as we get down to the core of some of these problems, that we don't disagree so much as we might think we do. Okay, so the third tip, or the third rule we're going to follow on this, is we are going to determine the facts and the variables, and then determine which ones are relevant to that root problem. Because a lot of times when people are talking politics, they throw out all kinds of facts and variables and knowns and things like that, but they're not really relevant to the problem. What they're relevant to is supporting their point of view, and there's a difference. For example, talking about me being cold. It's a fact that I'm cold. It's a fact that I don't like being cold. It's a fact that I live in Arizona. It's a fact that I prefer the heat. Those are all true facts. There's variables like, did I turn the heat on? Am I wearing a coat? Why am I cold? There are those variables. But are they the variables that are getting to the root, or the facts that are getting to the root of the problem? And that's what we're going to try and do, is get down to those, because those are the most important things. Not so much that I'm cold, because maybe if I address the root problem and the root facts and the root knowns and the root variables, then I can solve my problem without really doing much to myself. Maybe I won't even have to put a coat on. I don't know. We'll have to see what the root problem is. And then the fourth tip is to understand the opposing ideas. And not just listen to them and comprehend it, but to truly put yourself in that person's shoes and see if you can understand from their perspective. It is literally the most powerful thing you can do, because if you can really almost understand from their point of view, I don't think you can ever truly understand someone's point of view because you haven't lived their life, but if you can get pretty close to understanding their point of view, it'll help you find solutions to problems. And we all do this. Parents do this with their kids. We do this with our friends, people we're close to. We do this at work with our coworkers. When we understand what they're trying to do, if you see somebody trying to solve a problem and they're struggling with it, and you understand where they're trying to get, you can come in with your perspective and your point of view and say, I see what you're trying to do there. I can help solve this problem. And you can talk about your possible solution and see if the two of you can work together to do it. We do this all the time. This is not rocket science. The only time we don't seem to do it is when we're talking about politics, because we hold those, values and positions and things very close to our heart. And then the other thing is to not take offense, not get mad, control your emotions. And the reason that I say that that's important is, this is a whole huge topic we're going to talk about in another video, but emotions are how you manipulate people. And emotions are how you are manipulated. People are very easy to manipulate with their emotions. That's why if somebody agrees with you, you trust them. And somebody who disagrees with you, you don't trust them. So you can see, we see it all the time in political debates and discussions, that as soon as the opposing sides start butting heads and calling names and doing a lot of the things that we are going to avoid doing, that no progress is made. I've never seen any value other than just venting frustration. I mean, there's something to be said for that. But when I see people trying to convince someone to change their mind, and they're calling their ideas stupid, they're calling them all sorts of names, and they're saying, brushing them off as, you crazy people. I'm like, when in the history of humankind has that ever worked to change somebody's mind? It just doesn't work. So we're not going to do that. We're going to avoid it, and we're going to recognize when we are starting to do that and back away from it and try and gain, those perspectives, the context, and other things that I've mentioned. And I don't think I mentioned context yet. I am a big fan of context. It gets ignored a lot, and that might be a whole nother video that I do, but context is king. We have to understand the context, not only in the sense of time and history when we're talking about things, but the context of a person who's expressing an opinion or a fact. There is context. And the last thing that I will probably say at this point when it comes to statistics and research and reports, that may be a whole series of videos that I need to do on that topic. But I love statistics. I love research. I am a researchaholic. So if this sounds fun, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm curious, Dave, I got to see what you're bringing to the table. What are you doing different than anybody else? How are you going to make politics interesting and fun and less of a pain in my life? Then come back, check out future videos, and leave comments below on what you're interested in or what your questions are. Let's have fun doing this. I really think this is going to be exciting and fun, and showing how you can actually talk about these things and come away feeling good. Come back and check out more videos. I can't tell you how often they're going to be posted, so it's probably a good idea to subscribe and get the notifications so you know when they come out, and we'll see you on the next video.